Three, two, one.
You ready?
You're listening to the Real Pineapple Podcast Network.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. We are the Real Pineapple. This is Hunter, and I'm here with Colin. Colin, how are you, friend?
I'm doing pretty good. It's good to be back on the podcast. What's up, guys?
Yeah, nothing. It's a Monday too, which is wonderful. We are celebrating the birthday weekend of yours truly. That's me. I just turned 21. By 21, I mean 31. So happy belated birthday to me. I'm gonna say it for myself. And I'm here with Scott. Scott, how you doing, sir?
Doing good, but how you doing?
I'm good. Feeling older, but feeling more spry. Sure, we'll go with that. But we talked about this trailer. We never officially reviewed anything for it, but we're talking about Adrift, which stars Shailene Woodley, who most people probably know from those really terrible Divergent movies. I think they only did 2 of them because the second one didn't do very well. But
I think they did 3.
Did they do 3?
Yeah, the third one was called something dumb. I mean, they're all called something dumb. I think it was like Divergent, Insurgent, and then Allegiant.
That sounds right. God, did they really do 3 of those? Oh my god. That's ridiculous.
They made 3. I'm looking at her
that is rough.
cast list she's done. Yep, they made 3 of those terrible movies.
God, that's insane. But then I saw her in Snowden, which I really thought she was fantastic in, and I saw her in Big Little Lies, that HBO miniseries, and she was fantastic on there. So I'm very back, and of course she was in The Fault in Our Stars, which I will be honest was kind of like Perks of Being a Wallflower. How I fell in love with Emma Watson after that. I was just like, okay, you're kind of wonderful. But Shailene Woodley is interesting in the sense that she's very talented. But I just don't think she's had that movie where everyone can kind of go, oh yeah, I universally love that movie, if that kind of makes sense. I'm really curious to get your guys' thoughts on this, because this felt like another classic why do white people do these things movie for me. But I will say that I might have enjoyed it more than some people did. Scott, kind of your thoughts going into this?
I feel like you kind of get a good handle on this movie before you get into it. Just based on previews that we've seen, I think they've been playing this preview for a little while.
Yeah.
It seems like it's been a while. So I feel you have an idea of what the tone is going to be, and it's far and away the tone of like a love story. Then they throw in a little bit of waves and a lot of storms and such. But going into it, I feel like I was kind of preparing myself for more of like a romantic drama, and not necessarily my favorite genre of movie. So just kind of hoping that the acting took it from there and was able to carry my interest throughout. What about you, Colin? What were you expecting?
I thought I was gonna hate it. Like the trailer, I thought it was gonna be like, my idea of the movie was like, adventurous girl meets the dreamy British guy, and it's like that's concentrated in like the first like 20 minutes of the movie, and then it was gonna be like an hour and a half of them like at sea, and I was just like, I'm gonna hate it. Surprisingly though, I thought they did kind of some interesting things with it to make it not so predictable and kind of like this played out like way this movie could have easily gone. I guess I'd say that. Other than that, I wasn't really excited for either of these actors. Shailene Woodley, I first saw her in The Spectacular Now, actually.
That's right, she was in that. Okay.
Yeah.
Miles Teller, right?
And I remember like thinking that movie was alright. It was done by some of the same people that did 500 Days of Summer, and I really liked that movie. So I remember liking her there. I saw Fault in Our Stars, and it was just like that dumb book.
It got me. I fully admit that movie got me.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was. I knew that's like what that movie was gonna do because that's how the book was. And then she did like the Hunger Game ripoff movies, like you were talking about, Hunter, like the Divergent series, which is just like one of those YA novel series turned to movies. And I was just so I was like, she's not a good actress. Like I don't care about her. Well, that was just like my perception of her, having not even seen any of those movies. So it was just the idea I had of her in my head. So yeah, I was like, my expectations were super low. But yeah, that's kind of how I was going into the movie. How'd you think it ended up playing out to start, Hunter?
So here's the thing. I think the biggest problem with this movie is the format. I think the format is a fucking crime for this movie. And I think this is a movie that is so guilty of trying to be more than what it should be. This should have just been straightforward, boy meets girl. They get into this hilarious predicament, and then Shailene Woodley has to kind of try to survive. The problem is that they tell this movie through present day and in flashbacks, and so all the tension that's supposed to be in this movie is just drained from it because it can never settle on its tone. And I'll be honest, that was the thing that just frustrated the fuck out of me as I was watching this, because I was sitting there thinking, God, this is really intense shit. But then every time it got intense, it would cut back to them, drinking wine, or him giving her a seashell or whatever the fuck. It's like, stop doing that. Like, let this movie just be. But it couldn't be bothered to do that. So Shailene Woodley plays Tammy, who's this, I think they said she's 24 in the movie. She's this spunky, adventurous girl who's, is basically it's almost like a white version of Moana. It's like she's called by the sea, basically, and she meets what's this dude's name? Richard Sharp. That's it. Who's played by Sam Claflin, who I will get to in a moment. And he's built his own boat and just kind of does the same thing. Just kind of goes where the wind takes him. They date for 3 months, and he goes, "Hey, baby, you want to come around the world with me?" She's like, "Sure, that sounds great. I've known you for a while." And and then they basically encounter the storm from The Perfect Storm, like the first time sailing this boat. And I will say, man, that's just shit luck. I mean, I make the joke about dumb things white people do. This is just a storm that there's nothing they could have done. And the movie does a pretty good job of just kind of going like, well, they were just dealt a really shitty hand, and they had no choice but to hit, essentially. I think what I found interesting about the movie is Shailene Woodley. She was also producer on this too. I thought she did a good job. I thought she worked her ass off, and it seemed like she was acting, and actually trying to portray, because she has to. There's a couple points where things are so dire, where they don't have fresh drinking water, and she's kind of going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and she has to really portray the dread and the loneliness that you would experience of being adrift for this long, and she really keeps the movie afloat. But I think where this movie just almost sinks. Two of them. Is is Sam Claflin. This guy, he reminded me of? He reminded me of the dad from Long Haul, where he was just like, I'm here just to collect the check. I don't care how many shot takes we need. I'm just gonna do one, and hopefully that works for you guys. He seems so disinterested in this movie, and I think Shailene Woodley was trying to carry the chemistry on her end, and he was just having none of it. It just seemed like he felt nothing for her. Scott, kind of your thoughts on the movie?
Yeah, I disagree. I feel like she was the one that was weighing this thing down.
Interesting.
It was like, just the whole concept of this movie is like this very popular narrative now with like girls in their 20s of like this wanderlust type deal where you like you're saying, go wherever the wind takes you, and you meet this, like, you try new things and you meet like foreign boys and you go sailing with them and you fall in love, and it's just like they're feeding it the whole time, and it's super cliche. And I don't know that Sam Claflin was really the reason for that, but I was really not impressed with Shailene Woodley's performance. It seemed kind of forced, even in like the intense moments. They didn't really seem very intense to me. But I that was kind of, that whole attitude was carried throughout this thing. And you're talking about the flashbacks of, them like, going around the world and drinking and feeding each other, and I don't know if I can, like you're saying, finding seashells. But yeah, it was just like the whole concept just kind of annoyed me, and her just like knowing everything, and then on top of that, I feel like the picture they're painting of this Richard guy is like the perfect guy, right? Who is like builds his own boats. It's like very realistic narrative, like building his own boat, and like he is like very deep, and like they don't ever have sex, and like what, just like a charming young man who's like 30, in his 30s or something like that. Yeah. She's like 24.
Yeah.
And like the entire time it's just like they're just like building you up so much to like this guy, and that he's like just the best thing to ever happen to anyone. That like that there's gonna be a turn at some point, and they kind of allude to it towards the beginning.
We'll get there.
There's a bit of a twist.
So it's interesting you say they didn't have sex, but yet she was wet for most of the movie. But hi-yo. Anyways, Colin.
God damn it, Hunter. Just the worst.
I know. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is really interesting hearing you guys' takes on this. I had a different impression of this movie, especially to hear you say what you said, Hunter, about how you very much disliked the way that it flashed, back and forth in time. I actually liked that. When I was going into the movie, I was dreading the fact that it was going to be like an hour straight of them just at sea. I was like, oh, it's going to be so boring. Like, I'm going to, like, yeah, they're going to be thirsty and hungry, and they're going to have to figure out how to get food, and, like, blah, 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 everything you can think of that's happened on movies like this, whether it be Stranded on a Desert Island or Lost at Sea type of movie. So I was just, like, waiting for this big, long, boring, like, Lost at Sea stretch of the movie. So I kind of liked that it was broken up just to kind of, like, give a break from these different points. I can see where you're coming from. I didn't like how they broke up the storm scene. That was like one of the parts that I thought should have been stretched out and shown more in its entirety, because that was like pretty well done, I thought. Like when the whole thing's happening, and it is very like Perfect Storm-esque. Like you got the big rogue wave, wall of water coming, and then it sinks the boat. and like all of that happens. But like being in the theater, like with the sound of the storm and everything, it's very, very intense. And then, you know, like in an instant it does flashback to like when they're first setting sail, and it does kind of like kill that intensity of the scene a little bit when it could have played out maybe a little bit more fluidly.
Yeah.
But I did like that it was broken up. As far as the acting performances, I like am kind of like in the middle of you two guys, where I just thought both of them like were pretty good together. Like I didn't think one of them was bad or the other was better. I just thought they were both like okay. I thought they were like kind of good together. Like I thought they actually had a little chemistry. Like it was like, and maybe the 50 Shades movies has just lowered the bar so low to where like now I just think mediocre acting is like decent chemistry on screen. I don't know, maybe. I was just like, what? It's weird. They're not like breaking out into hardcore sex scenes with like licking shit off of each other's like naked bodies, where it's like really uncomfortable and awkward. Like, there's actual good sexual tension right here.
It's like, where's the red room?
Yeah,
I know.
it's like there's no spanking scene. What's happening?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I thought like for what it is for most of the movie, like it's definitely like got a lot of the chick flick, like, you know, hit points that goes along with it. Like you said, Scott, he's just too perfect. I don't think they ever really even get into one fight the entire movie.
No,
he's just
not really.
He's just got this beautiful British accent, and you know, he's just there to, you know, sweep her off her feet and does nothing or says nothing wrong the whole time. You find out on the boat that, you know, none of that was actually real. We'll get to that. But
yeah, we will.
Spoiler.
well, you don't know what I mean by that, Scott, unless you saw the movie. But yeah, I mean, it's not gonna win any awards, obviously. But I never found myself rolling my eyes too bad at it, I guess, which is like, you know, it's not gonna get the highest grade. But, you know, I was never, you know, annoyed or thought it was really stupid, I guess, is what my first impressions of while I was watching it.
The word fine kept coming up in my head. I was like, it's fine. Just you know, I thought the best thing about this movie was the art direction and the way that things are shot. Because the way they shoot things like underwater and the storm itself, like the cinematography, it's beautiful in here. Like they show like sweeping shots of like the sunset and stuff like this, and I went, wow, okay, this is all really well. I mean, the way it's shot is beautiful.
Yeah, I didn't mind the shots of Shailene Woodley in her swimsuit underwater either.
Yeah,
and like her, just it's like Jennifer Aniston, like no bra ever, always like fully erect nipples throughout the entire movie.
Yeah, right off the bat too. Like the boat is like,
welcome to the world.
The boat is in ruins, and she just whips off her raincoat and is just like, Nipple City, let's go.
I was like, damn, didn't know Jennifer Lawrence was starring this, but yeah, I mean that is not a bad thing. She's in two pieces and stuff like that. I went, oh, that's cool. One thing I did appreciate though is that as the movie went on and she is, you know, adrift, they do like you see her body. You know, she looks way skinnier as the movie goes on, which I will admit like freaked me out. But that's, you know, how you would be if you were eating like nothing. I will say, too, something that just... And I said this out loud. I was like, oh, get over yourself. There's a point where she's talking to... what's the guy's name? Robert? Or
Richard.
Richard, thank you. Where she's talking to him, and he goes, you know, you have to go get a fish, you know, like, you know, you have to eat. And she goes... I'm a vegetarian. I won't torture something. That's what it was. That stupid line. She's like, oh, I won't torture something just to eat. And I just went, oh, get over yourself, really? I'm like, now you're like, no, I can't hurt a defenseless animal. It's like, oh, I'm sorry. Do you want to die, dum dum? I rolled my eyes heavy at that. I will be honest.
And she does come
Yeah,
to that realization pretty quick as well, too.
True, but I mean, even the fact that that was even a thing, I just went, really, at this point, Vegas gonna be choosers when you're just trying to survive. That just irked me. Scott, sorry, I think you're gonna say something.
Yeah, just another thing that kind of brought me out of it for sure. And it's like, okay, you're like surviving out here, and you don't like, I don't know. It just played along with the whole narrative. Like when they first met, she's like cutting up a fish, and they meet on the dock, and he's like, "Can I cook you dinner?" It's like, "No, I'm a vegetarian." I'm like, "Oh, sweet, yeah, you seem like a cool person. Like like you're totally cool for not eating meat. Like this is gonna come back to bite your ass." And then like just her being so adamant about not doing it, and like so she. I forget how many days in they were when she tried half-heartedly, and then I don't know, like a week later she's like, you know what, I think I probably should.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, it just, to me it didn't feel like a Lost at Sea movie, which is kind of what you were saying, Colin. And maybe I was just looking for that more and less about their romance. I feel like the flashbacks were definitely effective, and like they built up a bunch of emotion towards these characters and how they met, and it was creative of them they kind of started at the end and kind of worked their way towards it. Well, like started at the middle, worked their way towards that, and then we're kind of drawing closer together from the past and the present. So I thought that was effective, but that was not really like a movie that the movie that they were going for is not the one that I really was looking to watch at that point. So it was, I don't know, just I got too caught up in the cheesiness of the romance, and it just distracted me from the fact that they were like getting annihilated in the open ocean. And I wanted to see that more.
Yeah, that's
I preferred more of like a survival story, and I feel like we didn't really get that. It was just kind of like, oh, we got to eat some sardines and put some lotion on my face, and then we're rescued, and like, spoiler, they're rescued.
Ooh, are they rescued?
Yeah. Better watch and find out.
Yeah. Do you mind if we get into that spoiler?
No,
actually, I'd like to touch on that.
Yeah. Okay. So Colin, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the big reveal of the movie. It's very like what was that one movie, Life of Pi?
Yeah.
I was just like, oh, they're doing Life of Pi right now. But they she you know, a running theme throughout this movie is the fact that when you're lost at sea, or when you're at sea for a long time, you hallucinate, kind of giving you that foreshadowing. But it did catch me off guard. But the big reveal of the movie is that she never actually rescues the guy, which I was happy that that ended up happening, because the original scene where she like goes and finally rescues the guy, I'm just like, there's no way in hell this guy is alive right now on this little piece of driftwood, like the mini boat that had fallen off, because it had been a while, and he was fucked up.
Yeah.
Like his ribs were cracked and his leg was done. He was basically dead. So when they came to the point where they reveal that he was never actually rescued, she had made it all up in her head, I was like, at least that explains that. But I didn't know how I really felt about it. And what I did know, I didn't like that they hammered it over the head, where they had to they had to repeat the scenes. If they would have just like let it go from like when I thought it was really nice how he was there and then she's kind of looking down and she's like, I gotta let you go, and it kind of pans up and he's not there anymore. If they would have just left it at that, I was like, that was actually kind of well done. But then they have to like hammer it over your head and show like her eating peanut butter by herself, and I'm like, no, we got it, we're not fucking dumb.
Hey, remember this?
Remember when she's eating peanut butter? No, he wasn't there. Isn't that crazy?
So, Colin, you just hit the nail on the head. If they hadn't treated this like it was a twist, I wouldn't have cared as bad. But the fact they treat it like a da-da-da, we got you, I went, no, you didn't actually. And I'm actually more pissed off that you're presenting it like a twist. It seemed like almost like, you know what it reminded me of season 6? Yeah, season 6 of Dexter, where you find out Colin Hanks was talking to Edward James Olmos' character in Dexter, and that was his dark passenger, and they present it like, haha, we got you. And I'm like, no, you didn't. And same thing here. I was just really irritated because you're right. They foreshadow it like there's like a motherfucker. There's a point where they're talking at dinner, and she goes, what's being at sea like? Oh, it's lonely, it's crazy, you hallucinate, and then when he proposes to her, the setup is that he goes, oh, am I talking to you, like, did I just ask you to marry me, in Denver's voice? But don't worry, I always felt like my mom was always been there to lead me and to guide me. It's like, okay, fuck, fine, like, I get where you're going with this, just don't be this incredibly just vapid about it. And it's frustrating to me because I was going back and forth between my grades on this, and that really dropped it down for me personally. Scott, kind of your thoughts?
I appreciated that, like, that it helped to keep my attention throughout this movie, and when they did that, I completely agree with Colin. I think that it was super unnecessary to go back through the scenes, and it would have just been way more eloquent just to leave it at that and just kind of come to your own conclusions at that point. But that was just all part of the goal of this. What it felt like to me is to continually draw at your heartstrings throughout it, do the flashbacks of when they were really close, and then go to a really tough scene, and then this, when she figured out that he's actually dead, and then do flashbacks of like all of this, and her playing guitar, and her shoving her fingers of peanut butter into his mouth in an oddly sensual way.
Go on.
Like, so, and it's just like constantly doing that, and it felt kind of cheap in that way, but I do appreciate the way that they went about it. I again, I agree with you, Colin. I think that that little the scene there where they kind of pan the camera and he's gone and you start to kind of piece it together was very well done. And yeah, I don't know. You're right. They should just left it at that. I don't think that everything else was necessary, but I don't know. I think you could kind of draw your own conclusions, but I was surprised. I think I was taken aback by that reveal. So it added to this movie for sure.
Yeah, to be honest, I wasn't sitting there like the movie being like, oh, this is a hallucination or this guy's dead.
Right.
I didn't think that. I wasn't giving the movie that much credit that they would even try that. I was just like, oh, this, and the whole time I'm thinking, I know this is a true story, and I'm like, he really like was on this little boat, and she was able to go rescue him and pull him, and splint his leg and keep him alive for this long when this dude should clearly be dead by now. And then and when they made the reveal, I was just like, okay, at least you're doing some interesting things with this movie. You're trying. But then like I was saying before, just you don't need to hammer it home, and then you kill the moment. You make it into this like, let's just make everybody on the same page, get all the dummies on the same page, make them realize what's going on, because like it would have been a more interesting movie if people would have been like, did he fall over? Is he gone now? And it's like, no, he was never fucking there. You know, like...
Do you think that they... I feel like that's something that they added later.
Yeah, like,
Yes.
like they were...
Like, you know what?
They had, like, what is it? Like, they show it to, like,
Even people were,
audiences.
A few people were like, wait, what happened? Where did he go?
Yeah.
Like, oh, it was like, well, we better put together this montage just to like, make them happy.
Yeah, like the dumbasses in the screening rooms were like, so did he, like, fall off the boat right there? Why didn't you get him? And then they're like, oh, we better put in the scene of her eating peanut butter by herself.
I will be honest. I think you guys just hit the nail on the head. It seemed like this when they did test screenings for this, people just didn't get it. They're like, it's so ambiguous. I don't know what it means. And they're like, well, fuck. Now we have to like dumb this down so that, you know, the simplest simpleton can fucking understand this. So, that's probably exactly what happened. But as we wrap up here, I'm going to just kind of jump in here. So I saw this today. I saw it at 10:40 this morning. So it wasn't worth what I paid for it. I paid $6.50. But at the same time...
That's a cheap movie.
Yeah.
How you getting $6.50 for a movie? That's what I want.
I go early, man.
Yeah, I was shocked. Mine was $5.99 today at the AMC here in Seattle. I was like, wow. I was shocked. That's the cheapest movie I've ever seen in Seattle.
Did you guys drop dong at the kiosk?
Well, I do that anyway, which is why I can only go to this one theater now. But
yeah, well, I did that in the alley beforehand, but that was for something else.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I got like $8, but it was like a student price.
Oh, really? That's student price? Shit.
And matinee too?
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, that's
really getting me for everything I've got. Like,
yeah.
Come on.
God.
I got a family of one to feed.
Yeah, if I hadn't gone for Leia, I would have used MoviePass, but they're like, oh, you gotta have your tickets together. It's like, god damn it. So that wasn't great. But anyways, I will say I was at a B- for this until that fucking ending, and I just went, son of a bitch. Like, you just couldn't not hammer this home. So this drops to a C+ for me. If I got this at, you know, Redbox or rented this on Amazon, I'd be like, okay. But it's C+. I think this is something you can enjoy just for the cinematography, but I think the movie, you know, I think it just kind of folds under its own ambitions. And I will be the first to admit, too, maybe I was expecting more of a Castaway type movie than what I got. And granted, Castaway is, you know, fucking fantastic. This movie's short, though, which I will give them credit for. This is under 100 minutes, which thank God, because if this was 2 hours, this probably would have been a D or go fuck yourself. But they keep it short, and I think for the time allowed, they do a decent job. So, yeah, C+ for me. Scott, go ahead, man.
I can appreciate that this genre isn't necessarily my favorite, or this wasn't really made for my demographic per se. So there's certain things about it that irk me that I know certain people that I know would like. I think I enjoyed. I think the ending actually raised my grade to probably what it was going to be. I'm in the similar boat where I wanted to
similar boat.
similar schooner. Feel like it. I wanted more of a feel like they were surviving for the majority of this movie. I could have stood for a little less character development, which is something I usually rag movies on, but you kind of get what it is. They meet happenstance and they like each other and they fall in love, and that's great, and they're building some emotional connection with the viewer. But I don't think all of it was completely necessary, and maybe it was my expectations going in, but I don't think that Shailene Woodley really did a great job, and the chemistry was fine. I just was not really impressed with the acting in general. This is something I probably will never watch again, and depending on who asked me, I probably wouldn't recommend it. If you are... there was a young woman next to me that was like sobbing during like the end of this, so I know there's some people out there that might enjoy it, but not for me. But I will say, and I think we can all agree on this, that where my expectations were and where my grade is pretty different. And I think that I thought that I was really not going to enjoy this movie.
That's fair. I agree.
It definitely outperformed. So I would say this is just a very average movie, so I can give it a C.
Nice. Yeah, I think that was a great way to put it. If you would have asked me and be like, what do you think you're going to grade this? Like, when I saw the trailer, I'd been like, oh, there's no way it's getting higher than a D. Like, I mean, this movie looks so boring, so, like, such a played out, like, love story turned tragedy. But I thought they did interesting things with it. I actually think Shailene Woodley was pretty good. I enjoyed her. I enjoyed her with Sam Claflin. I thought they were pretty good on screen together. I thought this movie could have been really dragged out, really boring. I was impressed by the fact that it kind of like held my interest. And I was kind of like, you bring up a good point, Scott, where you say like, one, this movie's not going to be for everybody, but there is probably a demographic where this movie is going to be like, you know, in the upper A ranges because it hits a lot of those marks. I mean, it feels like a Nicholas Sparks movie at times, but this is like a Nicholas Sparks movie that I could like watch and not hate and roll my eyes at the entire time because there's at least like, you know, there's the cool scene, like there's the cool storm scene hitting. You know, there was problems with that being broken up that we talked about. But there's at least elements that really held my interest. And I didn't hate the two actors involved. I felt bad because I was watching and I was like, oh my god, Nikki would have loved this movie. She would have given this an A+, probably. And this is a movie that I actually could have watched, so I was just like, oh man, what a miss that I didn't actually, you know, take her to go see this.
Finally,
I basically just see every movie by myself now. It's kind of funny, but I'm just so used to it, I just see everything alone. Yeah, at the end of it, I felt like I kind of enjoyed it, but it's definitely not a movie that I probably would rewatch. From the way we talk about it, I think I probably liked it a little more than you guys. I'm gonna give it a B-.
God, wow, we literally covered the spectrum. C plus B-. That's a trip. Okay, like, well, it's interesting. So I gotta be honest, Scott. I thought you were gonna go low with your grade. Like the way you're kind of talking about, I was like, Scott might go C- here, but that's.
Yeah, and I think I was impressed with the twist. I think most of all, and then you mentioned it earlier, the runtime. I think I was just very appreciative of like it not being stretched out.
Yeah,
and they could have totally just like made this a 2-hour movie
easily.
You know what's weird is that on my Fandango app or whatever I use to usually look at like the movies and the details, I forget what it is. It's like Flickster. I use Flickster to see what movie times are. It said it was 2 hours, and I was like checking my watch, and it was getting close to the end of the movie. Me thinking there was 30 minutes left, and then she gets rescued. And then it's just like the credits start rolling, and it was like only an hour and a half, and I was like, "Oh fuck yeah, let's go!" I was like, "This is over." I was like, "That's not a bad movie," and I think that really helped me out. Like in every possible way, I had the bar set real low. Like I was just like, "This movie's gonna be boring. This movie's gonna be long," because I saw it said 2 hours, and I was like, "Oh, this movie's gonna be 2 fucking hours," and then it ended in an hour and a half, and I think that definitely helped my initial like feelings walking away from the theater, and I was like, not too bad.
I think, and we put a lot of, I feel like in this podcast we put a decent amount of emphasis on trailers, and I think that's validated in your sense of what you expect going into this movie, and like what your opinion of it is coming out, and like we were probably not thrilled with this trailer, so maybe that needs to be a strategy, is just make some shitty trailers. Just to get people in, just good enough to get people into the movie, and then just blow them away, and then be like, A+ is all around.
Yeah, like the new Mission Impossible. I'm probably gonna be so disappointed because I just fucking love
yeah.
that trailer, and then I'm gonna go into the movie and I'm gonna be like, "Where's the cool song?"
That is totally fair though. So, hey, all right, hey, I appreciate the logic behind everyone's grades though, because I think this movie will be like a 71%, I believe, on Rotten Tomatoes. So it's people are liking it. I mean, so who knows? That is saying that you could see so much worse, and I think we just reviewed. Oh God, not I Feel Pretty. Life of the Party.
Fucking Life of the fucking Party. God.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I think that movie just lowered the bar so much for me for the rest of summer. I'm just like, okay, as long as it's not Life of the Party, you'll probably get a C- by default. Just because.
Yeah, you can't really appreciate Adrift until you see the week of.
Yeah, you need to see some true go fuck yourselves to get that real, gauge of where grades are actually at.
You're like, you know what? I'm not angry, and I'm in kind of a good mood. Wow, how refreshing.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been kind of rough this for some parts of the year here so far already, but yeah, no, that's a very fair point. But guys, what did you think of? I almost said Life of the Party. Oh God, what did you guys? What do you guys think of Adrift? I will be curious to see where Shailene Woodley kind of goes from here. I don't think I've seen that guy in anything. I mean, but there's so many British actors now. I probably have seen him in something. I just can't remember it. But guys, let us know what you thought in the comments below. You can go ahead and follow us on SoundCloud, Podbean, iTunes, and Google Play, Google Music, pardon me, at The Real Pineapple. You can follow yours truly on the Twitter at JHunterRealPineapple. You can follow Scott on Twitter at
Newman the First.
And you can follow our buddy Colin on Twitter at
The Real O'Neill.
There you go. And like us on Facebook at The Real Pineapple. Guys, this weekend we'll have a review up for... I'm not even gonna lie, it's one of my most anticipated movies of the year. I'm so excited for Won't You Be My Neighbor. I'm so excited for that fucking movie. And
I actually am too. I won't lie to you.
I'm genuinely giddy to see that. That trailer's been making me cry. Just,
You're gonna be bawling the whole time in that movie.
Oh, dude, I'm gonna be bawling my eyes out. I'll probably see it twice, and then another movie I'm gonna cry in, probably for the opposite reasons. We're seeing Ocean's 8, which it could be good. I hope it's not Ghostbusters.
Does Tag come out next week too?
That's the 15th, unfortunately.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
But that is the same week. That is the same weekend Incredibles 2 comes out.
Oh, there you go.
That'll be a great weekend. But
and then when's Jurassic World?
The 22nd.
That's a week after that. Okay.
Yeah. So June will hopefully be a really good month for movies. So fingers crossed. But guys, thank you so much for listening. We'll talk to you soon.
Peace.